समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. We start our Gita talks from chapter 2, but I would like to make a reference on Gita chapter 1, because unless you have a reference, you cannot contextualize it. Now, I have to say this, any educated, intelligent person wants to know why he should study the Gita. Because, see, our minds are utilitarian, they are scientific, they are logical, and rightly, anybody should ask that why should I study the Gita? Secondly, because it is utilitarian mind, you always ask, how does that help me? How does that help me? Nobody has time these days to study a text like Gita that is so ancient. So people ask another question, and that is it even relevant today? It is thousands of years old. So is it relevant today? Another question that they ask is, it's a Hindu text. And it's a Hindu text. I am neither a Hindu, I am not even religious. Okay? So I don't believe in anything at all. You may call it agnostic, atheist, whatsoever. But why should I study the Gita? So there are answers to these questions. Now, number one, that why you should study the Gita is that Gita is a very logical, scientific explanation of human conduct based on the human mind, and that never goes out of relevance, because human beings are human beings. They are still there, and their minds are the same that used to be ages ago. So any study of the human mind or human behavior vis-a-vis the difficulties and the situations that one faces in life are the same there, then, now, and forever. So when it addresses something like that, then you want to know. Then another thing about the Gita is, of course, it is very ancient, but the Lord gives out answers to certain problems. Now, day to day, everybody and anybody is faced with difficult situations in life, challenging situations, frightening situations, and then you want to know, how should I deal with them? So here you have Arjuna, who is the protagonist of the whole piece. Now, Arjuna's questions are our questions. That is what we ask. And the Lord replies, gives practical answers to those questions. See, the thing is that human being the same, this is a very, very unique text in the whole world. Unique in the sense that here is an individual faced with a most stressful, frightening, full of anxiety situation in life, which is life-threatening situation for him. And he does not know what to do. He panics and he wants to run away from anything at all in life. Just like we all do. Whenever we are faced with something very, very stressful, we say, I don't want anything. Somebody else can take it all. I am not even interested. This kind of thing. And you want to just withdraw from there because you cannot bear the stress. Now, that kind of situation is a war situation, right? He is in a battlefield. This is a unique text because this is one discourse in the entire world which has been given on a battlefield when a human being is face to face with something that can cause death, something, I mean, it is a very, very anxious situation. He may lose everything, he may gain things, and then he questions that even if I gain, after so much of loss of lives, is it worthwhile? No other preaching in the whole world, in any religion, has been done in a situation like this. Now, we take that, we of course are not in a war situation, but there are war-like situations in everybody's life. Hmm? Whether it is business or it is family or it is day-to-day relationship struggles or whatever, but those situations come. Now, how to handle them? Another one thing that I have to say is that Krishna, being the Lord also, he does not change the situation for Arjuna. Please understand that it's not a magic wand that he will just say that, okay, now I am the Lord, you are praying to me, you are face to face with me, I change the world for you and make it a better place to live. He doesn't know that. He says that you cannot run away from your situation in life and you must fight your battle. Not only that you must fight your battle, you have to stand up for your rights. You have to fight against the wrong. You have to fight against injustice. You have got no right to run away from your duties and life. So, this is an action oriented scripture. Another very important thing that there is, this action oriented scripture is that it gives you step by step what to do. And those steps are pretty hard actually. But the thing is that he makes them easy for you. He shows you how you can make them easy. But the Gita, let me tell you, is not an easy text. And people take it very lightly. You'll be surprised that, in everyday situations, if you make the mistake, they ask you, what do you do in life? And by mistake, if you happen to say that you teach the Gita, oh God, then the other great question you face is, okay, tell me the gist of the Gita. Now, whether you are riding a bus or a scooter, or you are walking, or you are eating, or you are into any, or waiting at the doctor's, they want to know what's there in the Gita, as if it's a TV talk or show or something, which it is not. You cannot give out Gita like that. So, the situation is important. Then the student's mind at rest and at leisure to hear something so important which concerns him. That is also very important. So the place, the atmosphere has to be right for the Gita to come down. Though here it is given out on a battlefield, but we are not on a battlefield as yet, and we want to listen to what Krishna has, the solutions that he is trying to give you. So it is just that not just you and I, but if you want something scientific, you want something logical, which even today's psychologists, astrophysicists, modern scientists have respected and have gone by, then it is the Gita. There are no easy steps in it. It is not a TV talk show where they say in 3 small, easy steps you can gain this. You cannot. You absolutely cannot. You have got to go through the grind because you are schooling your own mind. Here, the situation is not changed for you, but here your own mind is conditioned to attack the situation in a great way, which will benefit you, which will bring victory to you, and which will make you gain what you want. Now, see, we are people of the world. Understand that nobody wants to give up the world and go. If you ask anybody, okay, sannyas lena hai, all those who are hearing, listening to this, they will say, nahi, sannyas humko nahi chahiye. Acha bhai, kya chahiye? Okay, you want power, you want position, you want status, you want health, you want kingdom, you want wealth, you want everything. You want a family, you want children, you want love. So then, sannyas is not the answer for you. You want all this? Well, then you have to work for it and you have to fight for it. And how to fight for it without anxiety? As in the Gita, there is a line, Yeah, Krishna is telling Arjuna, Yuddhasva Vigata Jvara. Jvara is fever. You know, the feverishness of the mind. So he says you fight on, but without the feverishness of the mind. See, this is very important for any battle. Once I was in China listening to a martial arts instructor, and he was telling his student that you will hit to kill, but with no temper in your mind. This was the instruction he was giving him. He said, if you have temper in your mind, your actions will go wrong. You will never be able to win. So there should be absolute quiet in the mind, total peace in the mind, and only then can you fight and also win a war, because you can plan absolutely minutely correctly. And that is what the Gita teaches you. See, my first teacher of the Gita told me that the Gita is such a text that even if half a line you can practice in your life, half a line, believe me, not even a complete line, then all the rest follows. And all the rest becomes easy for you. But believe me, I have tried, even half the line is difficult. And also understand, see, first thing that I want to make clear is I am neither a sadhu nor a sannyasi. I am just like you. I am a householder with family and I run a home just like anybody else. Therefore, please identify with me. You know, the things that I'm trying to tell you are the things I have faced while studying the Gita, trying to practice the Gita, trying to live the Gita in my own life. Those are the kind of things I would like you to understand, that I do not speak from a high pedestal. I speak from the same ground where you are, exactly the same ground where you are. The same kind of turmoils take place in my life and in my family, in my home and household. So, what I have learned through the ages, that is what I want to tell you, that Gita is extremely logical. So, the first chapter, of course, is Arjuna, crying on the Lord's shoulder and crying about all his woes, and the Lord lets him cry. He says, ha, bolo, bolo. See, because like any good psychiatrist or psychologist or counselor, he lets the patient talk. So the patient is talking and he is only listening. The Lord says nothing in the first chapter. In fact, even in the second chapter, the Lord begins speaking, really counseling. The Gita, the Updesh of the Gita, the counsel of the Gita begins from the 11th verse of the second chapter, where the Lord begins to speak. And see, interestingly, the first thing in the first shloka, that is the 11th shloka of the second chapter, he says, Ashocha nanu shochastvam. Prajnavadansha bhajase. Now, in that, what is it now? He says, don't worry. Why are you worrying? That is how he begins his talk. When the Gita ends, the last verse of the Gita ends with Ma Shucha. Ma Shucha means don't worry. There is no need to worry. Just imagine. So, the first and foremost thing that the Gita does is set your mind at rest. Because worrying is, we all know that worrying doesn't help, but we still worry. We go on worrying. So the Gita teaches you how to school your mind not to worry, because it's a futile activity, doesn't lead you anywhere at all. We all know it. Yet we are prone to worry. Subah uthte worry, raat ko sote worry, and all that. So then that is not what, okay. The Gita teaches you all that. Now also, the Gita's appeal is across religions, across races, across geographical areas, because believe me, there is nothing Hindu about the Gita. A study of the human mind cannot be just Hindu. A human being can be anybody. He can be a Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, whosoever. So the human mind behaves the same everywhere. Now, something that is a chronicle on the human mind, a deep study of the human mind, that has to be scientifically true and logical. That is why the first chapter is called Vishad Yoga, because Arjuna is only crying. Vishad means sorrow. So Arjuna is only crying. And the second chapter is Sankhya Yuga. Because over here, Sankhya means Sankhya. The method that the Gita picks up to teach is logical and conclusive. See, it goes by steps. This is equal to this, so this is equal to this, and therefore. Now, that is called Sankhya, jante hain aap Sankhya. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it point-wise goes logically, very, very logically, as to how the human mind behaves in a given situation. And how can you tackle the human mind then? Those answers are given. That is why it is called Sankhya Yoga, which is Sankhya, counting, going by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Okay. Now then, also I want to tell you that it is not just for uneducated people. In fact, it is for highly educated people, highly logical and thinking people who can apply those things and understand those things and apply them in their lives. So you have people like Mahatma Gandhi, a barrister at law from Africa. You have Annie Besant. You have Aldous Huxley. You have Nehru. You have Einstein. You know what Einstein said? Einstein said that after I have read the Bhagavad Gita, I keep on wondering that how the Lord Almighty God has created this universe, and I feel that all other knowledge is superfluous. Imagine saying something like this. This is Einstein saying. Gandhiji, okay, another great man. He used to read the Gita every day, and the last 18 verses of this very chapter, second chapter, are the ones which he used to read every day. And he used to read the Sermon on the Mount and this last 18 chapters. Now, when he used to do this, he said that the way this settles my mind, nothing else does. And Gandhiji said, I get all my answers in the Bhagavad Gita. So it is not a text you can take lightly, right from Max Muller to Nelson Mandela to this one, that one. I can name you a whole lot. Even Nehru, Pandit Nehru. He said that it is a call for action. Nehru said it's a call for action. It's a call for action to deal with your duty and your the things you face in life. So, please, I mean, it is not something which you can take lightly. Gita is not something which you can take lightly. And so then, should we say that we should...
Said he was a hysterical wreck at that time. And he said he doesn't want anything and he wants to run away. Now that is the entire... And he gives one reason after the other he goes on giving for not doing what he was doing, and what he was supposed to do. Because he identifies only with himself. He doesn't identify with Dharma. He doesn't identify with the whole army that he was representing. In fact, he has no right. He has absolutely no right to think of himself as an individual. This is a question dealt with by, Ernest Hemingway in Farewell to Arms. It is also dealt by Bernard Shaw in Arms and the Man. And most of the post-war literature handles this question only, that when you fight a war, do you go into battle as an individual, or do you go into battle representing a country or an army or representing a cause for battle? So if you go in as just an individual, then you are going to face all those troubles that an individual faces in his life alone. And that is what is pointed out by Krishna, that how can you? And can you imagine the commander-in-chief of the army saying that he wants to run away? I mean, is that his duty? Is that all the soldiers are there standing to fight along with him, to support the cause which he heads? And he, as an individual, saying, I cannot fight because my guru stands on the opposite side, my cousins stand on the opposite side, my grandsire is on the opposite side. How can I kill them? So Arjun has actually panicked because understand one thing. Just before Arjun went into battle, the opposite side played a trick on him, which was a psychological trick. And that trick was that Dhritarashtra sent a messenger to him at night saying that Arjun, what are you trying to do? Do you know how much of sin you will incur? You will be killing your teacher, you will be killing your grandfather, you will be killing your brothers and all that. Are you ready to do that? And for what? For a kingdom? So you will be incurring a lot of sin. Now, see, when you put a seed, that is a thought seed, into somebody's mind, finding a right situation, that seed sprouts and it will come up. And that's what happened to Arjun. So if Arjun did not want a kingdom, if he did not want to fight, didn't he know who's on the opposite side? Surely he knew. He absolutely knew who's on the opposite side. Yet he came to the battlefield to fight. He wanted revenge, he wanted power, he wanted wealth, he wanted kingdom. He wanted to be king, right? So then, if he did not want to fight, so all these questions should have come to him before, but they did not. So when he saw who's on the opposite side, which he knew already, but he panicked, and his knees quivered. He sat down, he threw away his arms, that is bow and arrow, and he said that I am so nervous that I cannot even stand, he says. I cannot hold my weapons. That much of nervousness he had. So we all face this kind of nervousness in life when we are faced with a dire situation. And Krishna in the Gita talks to you how to deal with that situation, not run away from that situation, right? So this is mainly about the Gita. It is logical, scientific, connects with the human mind, right? So then it is a life skill. I always call it a life skill. Gita is a life skill taught by the Lord. And we all need life skills to survive, trying to get something from Krishna, but Krishna doesn't speak anything. When in the second chapter, the first 9 verses of the second chapter, right? So you have the book on you. I hope that is, we are going to be doing Swami Chinmayananda's Gita. So chapter 2, and if you have it on you, of course the commentary, if we read, it will take a very long time. But understand that the first 9 verses are a hook, that it's a bridge that connects the first chapter to the second chapter. Because even in the first 9 verses, Arjuna is only ranting and saying, making out a case for himself that he doesn't want to fight. Now, the Lord also tells him, them klabhyam masmagamah partha, he says. Now that means that where did you get all this weakness from? How can a soldier like you be who ran away from the army? The great warrior, even your grandchildren will be told, people will tell their grandchildren that, there was this great commander called Arjuna, and he was the biggest warrior in the Mahabharata till the war began. And when the war began, he was the biggest coward. Can you live with that? Can you live with that kind of defamation? No, you cannot. Absolutely, you will not be able to. So rise up. And it is not your war that you are fighting. You are fighting a dharma yuddha. See, right in the first verse of the Gita, it says, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yoyotsava. Dhritarashtra is saying. So it is a dharma kshetra. The battle is a dharma battle for dharma, battle for righteousness. Now you fight only for righteousness. Why are you thinking that I am fighting my cousins? I am fighting my grandfather. They are standing for unrighteousness and you are fighting unrighteousness. So you will fight them. Okay. So now let us come to the first verse of chapter 2 and we will read it together. This is Sanjay speaking. So Sanjaya uvacha tam tatha kripaya vishtam अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणं विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदन. Once again. तं तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणं विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदन. Now Sanjay says, to him who was thus overcome with pity and despondency, with eyes full of tears and agitated, Madhusudana, the destroyer of Madhu, spoke these words. So, this is Arjun's condition. He says, overcome with pity, despondency, grief. He is even crying. Can you imagine a commander in chief crying? How pathetic is that sight? So, even a man like him loses nerve. So, what should we talk of people, ordinary people like you and me? It is a pathetic situation. Now Madhusudan, the Lord over here is called Madhusudan. Now Madhu was a Rakshas whom the Lord had killed. One of the names of Krishna is Madhusudan. So he Arjun calls him Madhusudan, and he says that how destroyer of Madhu. Now, in the Vedantic interpretation of this name, Madhusudan, Sudan means destroyer, Madhu is the name of the Rakshas. Now, Madhu otherwise is honey. Okay, so honey is a collection of what the bees get from all kinds of flowers, and they go on collecting, go on collecting, and go on collecting for a rainy day, and that's all in a beehive, right? Now, they collect the whole summer. The winter months can go having that honey. Human beings, what do? Our whole life is only one agenda: collecting, collecting, collecting for a rainy day. We also, one dress is not enough, another and another and another and another. Nothing, no one thing is enough. Your need is not enough. So we run towards greed. We go on asking, we go on earning, we go on earning. Look at the people who are very wealthy. They, their 10 generations can live well, but still they don't stop earning. They just go on and on and on. This is exactly what a bee does. So the Lord is the destroyer of that tendency of greed, the tendency to acquire, to possess, to acquire, to possess, and even things you don't need. You just go on and on and on. So Madhusudan is the destroyer of those desires which make you run after things which you don't really need, and you waste your whole life doing only that. So this is the autobiography of every human being. You need it or not, but you will run after it. And you will go on running after it. And never is there enough. So he spoke these words to this sorrowful Arjun, and then he says, okay, so now this is Sri Bhagavan कुतस्त्वाकश्मलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम् अनार्यजुष्टम् अस्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिकरम् Arjuna. It says, the blessed Lord said that whence is this perilous condition come upon thee, this dejection, un-Aryan like, heaven excluding, disgraceful, O Arjuna. So it is a most disgraceful thing. And your akirti means you will be infamous. And this thing will go down centuries. People will always say that this is what Arjun was, the great warrior. So would you want it? And he calls it Anaryam, Anarya. He calls Arjun Anarya. See, in those days of the Aryan civilization, to The Aryans were associated with all the noble qualities, all the brave, noble, generous qualities they were associated with. But an Anarya was somebody, it was like an abuse. It was a very humiliating abuse to be called Anarya. Because Anarya could be a valueless person, ignoble, a coward, not caring for others, selfish. This kind of all these bad qualities were associated with the person who was Anarya. So he says that कीर्ति भी जाएगी तुम्हारी. And he says that from where have you got this perilous condition, this cowardice? Because you are trying to not live by your DNA. People are going to wonder that is he the son of kings? Is he a man who really was born to kings? Because that is what they are going to question. And would you like that? That is really so abusive and so disgraceful. Each word in this is insulting. Now, even when you go to the next verse, I'm doing these a little quickly because they just take the narrative forward for you. The third verse, Klebyam asmagama partha netvayyupapadyate kshudram hridaya dorbalyam tyaktvotishtha parantapa. He says, yield not to impotence, O Partha. It does not befit thee. Cast off this mean weakness of the heart. Stand up, O scorcher of foes. Parantapa. See, he's challenging him with this title. It was Arjun's title. Arjun had many titles, very decorated man. So Parantapa, Parantapa means a scorcher of foes, right? Now, scorcher of foes, because Arjun was a great warrior and he could defeat just anybody at all. He could destroy, kill. That is why he's called Parantapa. But why does the Lord address him as Parantapa here? Because he is behaving not like that kind of a warrior. He's behaving like a coward. So the Lord is challenging him that you are a Parantapa. So fight the battle of your life. And he calls him, see, Klebyam. To call any man Klebyam, Klebyam means an impotent person. That itself is an insult, right? And to call a warrior impotent, that is a huge insult. So every word over here is a terrible, terrible downgrading for Arjun. But he does it purposely. The Lord is doing it on purpose. Because see, they say that Arjun was a patient of hysteria over here. And even today, psychology tells you that when a person gets very hysterical, the first thing that the counselor should do is to slap him. Slap him hard. So he stops crying and he suddenly comes into his senses. And that is what Krishna is doing with this kind of talk. That he is insulting him so hard that Arjun sits up to think that what did he say? Oh, is this what he said to me? So this is a treatment for hysteria. Klebyam Masmagama Partha. And he calls him Partha also. Partha has got many, many meanings. One meaning, of course, is Parthiv. Parthiv means born out of mud. Anything that is born out of mud is Parthiv. Api, when somebody dies, then aap log kehte hain na, unke Parthiv sharir ko. Parthiv means made of mud, right? So which made of mud means made of the 5 elements. That is all. And that is not that person. It is only his body. So there is a difference. And he calls him Partha. Prithu ka putra also can be called Partha. Because he is descended from Prithu. That also Partha. Also, my teacher used to say, Gurudev, our great Gurudev used to say that Krishna always calls him Partha when he wants to say, oh, you fool, or when he wants to say, oh, you muddy-headed fool. So when he wants to say that to Arjun, then he also addresses him as Partha. So he is here addressing him as one as Partha, the other as Parantapa, because only to awaken him, to shake him up, and to say that why are you behaving like this? Don't yield to this impotence. You're not an impotent man, you're a great warrior. So why are you behaving in this particular fashion? So this is an Hriday Daurbalya. It is a weakness. It is a your heart is weak, your mind is weak. What are you doing? You are not fit enough to fight a war or to be the commander in chief, least of all to be a commander in chief of an army. You cannot. So this is another one. And then he says the next verse. Now, Arjuna uvacha katham bhishmamaham sankhye Durnam cha madhusudana ishubhe pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. He says, Arjun says, replies to the Lord, how, O Madhusudana, shall I in battle fight with arrows against Bhishma and Drona, who are fit to be worshipped, O destroyer of enemies? Are Sudana. Are is an enemy, Sudan means destroyer. So here see, he addresses Krishna again by two things. Unhone kya kaha tha? He had called him as what? He had said Partha and Parantapa, right? What is Arjun calling Sri Krishna? Again addressing him by two names. One is Madhusudana and Arisudana. Madhusudana meaning we have already discussed, and Arisudana is the destroyer of enemies. So these, see, he says that who are fit to be worshipped, O destroyer of enemies. Now here he calls Krishna a destroyer of enemies and also a destroyer of madhus. But he says that, listen, you only destroyed one enemy. I have so many standing in front of me. So it's not so easy as you think it is. That is a hidden meaning, that Arjuna is slightly taunting Krishna, that killing one demon is a child's play for me. Here is a whole army standing, full Kaurav army that I have to defeat, right? So, O destroyer of enemies, it is not one by one that I have to destroy. I have to fight this battle with all these. And he also names these big people. He says, my teacher who taught me how to fight is standing opposite me. Now, how can I fight him? A, it is immoral to fight my teacher. B, my teacher is much more qualified in battle than I am. So it is more likely that he will kill me rather than I will kill him. And secondly, Bhishma. Bhishma was the grandsire in whose lap Arjun had played when he was a child. So he says that, no, I cannot kill my grandfather. I owe so much to him and I owe so much to my teacher. It will be a big, big sin if I kill them. And you are taking it so lightly. It cannot be done. So I cannot be a killer like this. So here he says, we go into the next verse now. This is 4 and we go 5. I'm doing this quickly only so for the reason that we can then come to the discourse of the Gita itself in my next talk. Guru nahatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhekshamapi haloke hatvartha kamanstu guru nihaiva bhunjiya bhogan rudhira pradikthan. So look at this verse. I mean, this is a really shameful verse for this reason that he says shreyo bhoktum bhekshamapi haloke. This is a Kshatriya talking. Even an ordinary Kshatriya will not talk like this. No Kshatriya is allowed to beg for his food or beg for anything. He has to stand up and do Purushartha. He has to do self-effort, earn his livelihood, and then eat. Unless he puts in that kind of effort, he is not even allowed to eat. And here is not only a Kshatriya but a prince. He is a would-be king. And for him to say that I find it better to beg for my food and eat than to kill my teacher, he says, Guru na hatva he mahanubhavan. He says, O Mahanubhav, see, I'll read the translation of the verse. This is better indeed in this world to eat even the bread of beggary. Huh? He says, false estimate of himself, due to his false estimate of himself and his problem. Arjuna poses himself here as a martyr of his own morality and ethical goodness. See, we all do this again. I identify with Arjun. We must all identify with Arjun because he's like us. Whenever we don't want to do something, we always take on a noble mantle. That is the better way to excuse yourself from some embarrassing situation. Say कि मुझे तो चाहिए ही नहीं. I don't want it. I don't need it. Or this is too way low below my status and my standards to do. Or that this is something so lowly, I will not stoop to it. I am a noble man. Or that this is a sin which will take me to hell and I won't do it. The real reason is something different. The real reason is that I am panicking in front of these great people. I am panicking in front of this big army, and I don't even know whether they will kill me. As he says in the next verse, I think, that he says, I don't even know whether I will kill them or they will kill me. So even before the war begins, even before he takes up the challenge, he wants to give a walkover. Because he says that will help him. That will help him save his reputation. He doesn't want to lose his reputation as the greatest warrior. And he says that it's better not to fight. It is too below my status to fight. He says, better indeed in this world to eat even the bread of beggary. So this is this is something Arjun should never have said, because it really goes down in history as a great belittling thing for him to say for himself. And he says that Drona is my teacher, taught me everything. All the war tricks that I know have come down to me from my teacher. He may know much more than me, and he will destroy me. He is afraid of Dronacharya, and rightly so. He is afraid of Bhishma. Bhishma was also a very great warrior, and Bhishma was a very strong man. And a strong grandfather doesn't mean that he was old and dilapidated. He was a very strong man and knew all the tricks of the trade. So here Arjun is scared of him. Come to verse 6. Also, I want to tell you that here the meter has changed. Guru nahatva hi mahanubhavan. Now, this happens in all scriptures, that when the teacher wants you to sit up and listen to what he's saying, he changes the tune, he changes the meter of poetry. This is all in song. It is called Gita because it is sung. Gita, we all know Gita. So Gita is a song, and he changes the slaying whom we do not wish to live stand facing us. Now see, he is saying that he does not want to kill his cousins. Taking on a noble mantle, he says that I am more noble than them. Let me allow them to kill me and take the kingdom also. I neither want the kingdom nor I want to live after having killed these kind of people. And look at the second line. He says that I don't even know whether they will kill me or I will kill him. That shows, that shows that he is diffident. He is a coward. He is not sure of victory at all. That is the reason why he is saying it. And you get a clue as to why he is putting on this noble mantle. Simple reason is that he is panicking. And he does not want to face Dhartarashtra or anybody. Also understand, in the Gita, Dhritarashtra is blind, we all know. He represents Moha. Okay? He represents Moha. Moha is always blind. Moha is blind, and see, he cannot see, and his wife chooses not to see. You get it? She knows what is right and wrong. She can see it very clearly, but she refuses to see that also. So that is why she herself makes herself blind. Of course, supporting her husband, but a wife, in our scriptures, it is very clearly said a wife supports her husband, but in all questions of righteousness, the wife is the leader and the husband is the follower. It is very clearly said. So you will notice that whenever you do any righteous deed, puja, havan, kanyadan, or any big abhishek, or aap yajman bane hain kisi cheez ke, so in all that, the importance of the wife is so much that it is not considered complete without the wife. You know that even after Sita ji had left Ramji and gone, Ramji, when he had to do a yagna, the Pandits told him that Sita has to be there for your yagna to be complete. Otherwise, it will not be considered complete. Similarly, in all grihastha ashrams, whenever a husband does a yagna, the wife has to be there because she is supposed to be the leader in all his deeds of righteousness. That is a promise she takes from him when the marriage takes place. She says, I am ready to follow you. I am ready to come to you. He says that I will be going out in the world and working and all in a marriage ceremony. And he says that to you now, please follow me and be my support. So come to my left. The bride comes to the left only after extracting a promise from him that I will be your follower in everything else. But whenever it is a question of wrong and right, whenever it is a question of dharma, that what should be done, what should not be done, or anything which is pious to be done, a donation, a dan, a havan, a puja, or anything, I will be to your right and you will follow me. When the husband grants her that, only then she comes to his left. So over here also, Dhritarashtra. We were talking about Dhritarashtra, right? So Dhritarashtra should be following his wife in a dharma yuddha, what she guides. But since she herself becomes blind, willingly becomes blind, that means she also gives in to moha. So she has also given in to moha, and therefore she does not become the right kind of guide either. She cannot see. So both cannot see. So it is one blind person leading the other blind person. So here Dhartarashtra, he says that Dhritarashtra can kill me, my teacher can kill me, my grandfather can kill me. So why? So we clearly see the panic. Panya dosho apahat swabhava prachhami tvam dharma sammudha cheta यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधिमां त्वां प्रपन्ना. Now it says, my heart is overpowered by the taint of pity. My mind is confused as to duty. I ask thee, tell me decisively, what is good for me? I am thy disciple. Instruct me who has taken refuge in thee. Now, this is Arjun saying, the thing is that he had emptied all his heart to Krishna. But Krishna has not spoken anything apart from saying that, why are you behaving like this? This is hardly the way to behave. That's all he said. But he did not preach. He did not teach. He gave him no upadesh. Here now then Arjun thinks that Krishna is just has got a fixed smile on his face. He is not saying anything to me. But what happens is that, when we are in a situation which is very, very frightening, we even like to take the advice of somebody about whom we have a very poor opinion, but he is the only one available. So here, Arjun used to think that he is a prince. His education has been that of a prince. And Krishna is a cowherd boy. He has grown up in a village. He has not had any one of those kind of education that Arjun himself had had. So he has not been taking his advice. But now, because he is desperate, he tells him that I surrender to you. You tell me what is the right thing to do. Can you tell me what is right and what is wrong? And I surrender to you because my mind is totally confused. We all that do that. When we are totally confused, we just, anyone and everyone, we just dial a number and say कि भैया ऐसी सी बात है. Tell me, what do you think I should do? Right? So he is doing a similar kind of thing over here, that he is taking refuge in Krishna and saying that I am thy disciple now. Tell me what I should do. He is very ready to take even a cowherd boy's advice in a given situation. Also understand one thing. When you go to an advisor, a person who is outside your problem is always able to advise you correctly because he sees the problem objectively. You are in the problem yourself. To know the correct answer of how you should behave, you need to be out of the problem, right? So it is not really Arjuna understanding what he wants to do. He knows what is wrong or right, but he wants to hear it from someone else. Also, he thinks that if Krishna tells me that yes, what you are saying is absolutely right, so you run away from battle. There's no need for you to fight. Of course, you will never sin. Of course, many a times we do the same thing. When we want to do something, when we go to take advice, it is not advice we want. We want the other person to okay what we are thinking. And that kind of person we also choose. We say कि हाँ इसके पास चलो, ये जो मैं कर रहा हूँ वो ये कहेगा you are absolutely right. What you are doing and thinking, that is how you should do. That is the correct way to do. So that is the thing we always go to. And here he is doing the same thing, that he is going and see, he says that my heart is overpowered by the taint of pity. Look, he is putting himself on a high moral ground. He says that if I give up fighting, I will be doing it out of pity. Pity for the opposite side. See, he notice that he's saying both the things. First, he also said that I am not sure whether they'll kill me. तो फिर उसमें pity कहाँ आती है? And here he is saying that I am going to run away from here. I will be a deserter in the battlefield only out of pity for those who are standing opposite me. I don't want to kill them. So do you notice the confusion of Arjuna? He is totally confused. He is sometimes saying something, sometimes saying something else. And this is a typical sign of a confused person. When he puts his foot in both the boats and he doesn't know which one to take, which one will benefit him, what will be the right action, what will be the wrong action. And this is the situation all of us face when we are under some very trying situation in life. It's every morning when you get up, it's a battlefield. Every single morning, the same thing. So unless your mind is restful, you cannot attack the day. You cannot attack the situations in the day unless your mind is peaceful and at rest. So that is all for today. We do it next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.